A PowerPoint presentation by a sort of drunk guy. Today's episode, how to compare two Intel Core processors. Okay, so there's a problem out there, internet, and I'm here to solve it. So here's the problem, okay, there's a dude building a computer. He's like, okay, well, which is better, the i5 or the i7? So he goes and posts on a forum or on fucking Facebook group, and he's like, hey, which one's better? Because this guy, he doesn't know anything about computers. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. I don't expect anyone or everyone to fucking know anything about computers, okay? We're always here to help. That's what the internet is fucking for, right? So then there's this guy. This guy on the internet, he's like, well, shit. Get the fucking i7. I mean, it's just the better processor. But secretly, this guy knows nothing about computers at all. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. As long as he doesn't act like he does, I'm perfectly fine with that, Okay, so this guy knows that 7 is bigger than 5. And therefore, he believes that all i7s are just better than i5 processors. Okay? So, the dude building the computer is like, you know what? I can't buy the i7. That's too fucking expensive. And the guy is just like, you know what? You need to shut the fuck up and sit and spin. So the guy is at a crossroads. So he wants to compare. So he wants to know how different the i5 is from the i7. Okay. So this guy, he's like, he's gonna do one of two things. He's gonna say nothing, or he's gonna Google this shit and he's gonna find this. This is the actual Google result you're gonna get if you Google what is the difference between i5 and i7. This is what you're gonna get. I'm gonna just read this to you. For the most part, you'll get faster CPU performance from your i7 than your i5. Okay, the majority of Core i7 desktop CPUs are quad-core processors, but so are the majority of Core i5 desktop CPUs. This is not always the case, motherfucker. It's not always the case, as there are dual-core mobile Core i7 processors and many dual-core mobile i5 CPUs. So, if you're reading this and you're confused, you're fucking normal, because this shit is confusing. It's not easy to understand, okay? So, let's talk about the even bigger problem here, okay? People think i5 is one particular processor. No, motherfucker, it's not one processor. If I tell you I have an Intel Core i5, that's not one fucking processor. It's not one CPU, okay? The reality is i5 is a processor classification, okay? More accurately, it's a processor, it's a comparison between different processors in a specific set. Okay, there's like 150 plus processors called Intel Core i5, and performance-wise, they're on a huge spectrum, right? They can be shitty processors, they can be great processors. And the exact same thing for i3 and i7, okay? An even bigger problem than that is, historically, people don't know dick about what a processor actually is and like all of the little stats about it, right? So if I pull up an Amazon listing for this Pentium processor, I'm gonna see all this shit, okay? And I'm not gonna know what the fuck any of this is, right? So people think they know what this shit is, right? Especially this first one, fucking gigahertz. Let me tell you what a fucking gigahertz is. I got a whole fucking slide on it. What the fuck is a gigahertz? You know what? It's nothing! Don't mean shit! Don't mean fucking shit! Stop looking at it. You don't know what the fuck that is. Don't act like you fucking know what that is. It's only useful when you're comparing like processors from like 9 years ago to processors that are coming out today. No, motherfucker. Stop looking at it, okay? So let's talk about some of the other shit that may actually be useful. Wow, these fucking animations, dude. Holy shit. What the fuck is a core, right? So there's things about core, okay? Cores are the reason why fucking gigahertz, they don't mean shit. Okay, so the more cores I have is the more potential performance, and I say that very broadly, okay? It's not the only means of determining performance, and by itself, It's not the greatest way to compare processors, okay? But when we're talking about, you know, like moving to the future, because it's the future, man. All of this shit, all about cores, it may become a useless measurement after all, okay? Or at least an even poorer way to determine performance than it already is. So do I need to read any of these fucking stats, the gigahertz, the cores, and all that shit? I mean, yeah, if you're a fucking nerd, and that's fine. It's just that if you don't know what a core is or what an L3 cache is, you're just going to use the comparisons that Intel provided you, and we're going to talk about what Intel has done to make your life a little bit easier. So you need to keep in mind, if you don't know what these things are on a technical level, you shouldn't be on the fucking internet telling people what processors to buy, okay? There's professionals out there, myself included. I have a fucking degree in this shit, okay? I know what this shit is. So I'm in some fucking, you know, situation to be telling people, look, you should be buying this because it suits you better. If you don't know what the shit you're doing, don't go on the fucking internet and tell people, oh look dude, you need to buy this one because I heard it's better. Or maybe you're in this, maybe you're just in the fucking place where, okay, yeah, personally I've used all of these fucking processors, which, fuck you. No, you haven't. You haven't used all of these processors. You know, fuck off. Okay, so is all of this shit hopeless? Is there any easy way to compare processors? The answer is not yes, and it's not no. It's kind of, but it fucking sucks. Let's see why. Okay, so what the fuck is Intel Core? What is all this i3, i5, i7 bullshit, and how is it named? Okay, so let's talk about this shit. Okay, first of all, disclaimer. This information is not succinct, okay? It's not the greatest information. We're talking very broad beginner information here, okay? So I'm not going to talk about mobile processors. I'm not even going to talk about server processors. I'm not going to talk about special cases. I'm just talking about mainstream stuff for the mainstream consumer just looking to build a desktop computer, okay? So what is Intel Core? Okay, so it's the most modern brand name of processors, right? So if I told you, look, I've got a Mountain Dew, that's a brand of soda. If I tell you I got a Mountain Dew Code Red, that's a type of fucking Mountain Dew, okay? In the same way, Intel Core is a brand of processor. And if I tell you I have an Intel Core i3 6100 processor, that's a type of Intel Core processor, okay? So the only consumer processor line that Intel makes today is Intel Core. It replaced the Pentium brand. Pentium chips still come out, but it's just kind of taking a backseat. It's not a brand anymore. It's just a type of processor, just like i3, i5, i7. So Intel Core, they launched officially in 2008, and to date, we're at generation number 6. Okay, so we're going to talk about generations here in a second. So the whole Intel Core thing, they introduced this i3, i5, i7. Is there such a thing as an i9? No. There will never be a such thing as an i9 unless Intel decides that okay, now we're going to start naming things i9. Right now, we're not waiting on the fucking Intel Core i9 processor to release. That's not how this shit works. I'm going to tell you how this shit works. Before I do that, we're going to talk about the history of Intel Core, okay? So like I said, there's six generations today. The 7th one is going to come out in the near future, okay? So you can see all the code names and when they launched here in this table. You can pause the video, check it out. So the one we're on right now is Skylake. It released last year, and we're waiting on KB Lake to launch next year. It was delayed. It was actually supposed to come out this year. But there were complications, but that's way too nerdy for this slideshow. Okay, these generation numbers here, they're actually important, and we're going to see why later. These numbers are going to come up again. You can be like, holy shit! Holy fucking shit! So, yeah. Okay, so i3, i5, i7. Okay, so if you haven't... If no one sat down and told you this, it's hard to come up with, because the whole 3, 5, and 7 shit, it's kind of weird, right? Like, so here's what it is. i3, it means good. i5, it means better. i7, it means best. We're not talking about in broad strokes anymore. We're talking about within a generation. So if I'm talking about a Skylake i3, that's a good Skylake processor. If I'm talking about i5 in Skylake, that's a better Skylake processor than i3. i7 is going to be the best processor for Intel Skylake processors, 6th generation core processors. Okay, and you can see the stats here if you kind of want to nerd out and see exactly what the differences are. But at the bottom here, you're going to see i3, cheapest. Money is fucking important, okay? i5, mid-range. i7, most expensive. Not everyone has the money to buy i7 processors. They're fucking expensive. Go on Amazon. Right fucking... I want you to pause this video. Go to Amazon. Look at the fucking price differences between these things in Skylake. Yeah. They're different in price, okay? So sometimes it's alright to buy an i3. Maybe you're not fucking rich. Maybe you don't wipe your ass with 20s. It's fucking fine. Moving on. Okay, so this within a generation shit. Okay, to kind of elaborate on that. So, let's say Intel Core i5 Skylake processor. If I want to compare that to another Skylake processor, but of the i3 set, my processor is more expensive, and generally speaking, my processor is going to be better performance-wise. If I compare it to an i7 in the Skylake line, my processor is less expensive, and generally speaking, it's worse performance-wise. Alright, so quick note on this. If I say I got an i5 Skylake processor, that is also not one specific processor. There's actually 5 desktop processors and 8 mobile processors called Intel Core i5 Skylake. So the differences between those 5 plus 8, those math processors, they're different factory overclocks, right? So Intel makes these different slight adjustments to them so they can price them differently, because everyone's looking for their own little price point. So on the flip side, let's say I want to take that same Skylake i5 processor and I want to compare it to any i3 processor, to any i7 processor. Well, guess what? I can't fucking do that. There's not enough information available for me to compare those two processors because you haven't specified what actual processors that I'm comparing. You haven't said that. So how do we get enough info to do that? Okay, well, if I say I have an i7, it's not specific enough. If I say I have a Skylake i7, not specific enough, motherfucker. You need to tell me you have an i7 6700K. That's what we're looking for. So what does all that fucking numbers in the letter mean? Best slide in this whole fucking thing. Here it is. So this is a little infographic that I took from the Intel website explaining how they name their processors. So here it is. Intel Core i7. i7 is the brand modifier. We've talked about this shit. You know what that is now. i7 is the best processor in a generation. Very next number after the dash. Gen indicator. Generation indicator. Remember that table that I said, hey, this is fucking important? See that 6? That 6 tells you it's a Skylake processor. If that number was a 5, it would tell you you have a Broadwell processor. Yeah, the number's fucking important, okay? The next 3 numbers. Basically, the bigger those 3 numbers are, the better performance you're gonna get. It's as simple as that. So 700, if I compared a 6700 to a 6600, which I don't even know if that processor exists, but if there's a 6600, guess what? 6700, better in performance, motherfucker. Yeah. Alright, this letter. Sometimes there's a letter, sometimes there's not a letter. There's a bunch of different fucking letters that Intel likes to put, and you know what? They're all pretty obscure. We're going to talk about K here for a second, because K is definitely one of the more important ones. K means Your processor is overclockable. That's it. That's all it means. You cannot overclock a processor that does not have a K behind it. Simple as that. You can try. You know what? We're not going to get into that. If it's K, it's overclockable. That's what it means. There's other letters. Oh shit! I forgot I had animations. There's other letters. The other letters do not fucking matter. They all do different shit. Just go look it up. Go Google that shit. Google Intel Core processor letter suffixes. You'll get all sorts of shit on it. Go to visit the Intel website. Alright. Getting close to the end. We have everything that we need. Okay, you know what? With everything that I've explained in this video, we have everything we need to compare a processor within a generation. So, if I compare the i5 6500 to the i7 6700, well, those are both Skylake processors. i7 wins. Easy as that. i7 is going to be more expensive, so you know what? i5 wins in price. i7 wins in performance. Easy as that. But what happens when we compare processors within different generations? That's fucking hard. You can't just look at the name of it and understand what you need to do. Okay, so the example here, compare the Core i5 6500 to the Core i7 5960X. Holy shit, how the fuck are you gonna do that? The Core i5 is a Skylake processor. i7 over here is a Broadwell processor. Well, you know what? You can't just eyeball that. We can't directly compare those. Okay. So, what do? We use Passmark. You know what Passmark is? Too bad, I'm gonna fucking show you. One of the tits is Passmark! It's a website. Very credible website, okay? They sit around, they collect data from people that agree to test with their software. And they rank those processors based on how well they test. So all you have to do is, like, let's say you got two processors you want to compare. Search for the first one, find its Passmark score. Search for the second one, find the Passmark score. Whoever has the highest score, generally speaking, is the better processor performance-wise. This is pretty useful too, because, like, let's say processor number 1 scores 6,000. Processor number 2 scores 6,100. Well, those are pretty close in score, right? They're only 100 off. So, if the prices are radically different, you can see how much you need to spend until you're actually getting a decent performance increase. So, it's useful because you can see where that margin is. Very useful shopping tool. If you've never used Passmark, you definitely have to look into it. Very useful tool. They do CPUs, which is, you know, what we're talking about here, processors, and then they also do GPUs. They do video cards too. Incredibly useful for video cards. Yeah, Passmark. There are other websites that do this kind of shit, but Passmark has pretty much always been there, so that's the one I recommend. That's it, motherfuckers. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't give a shit. One more thing before I go. There's a video on this topic that is a lot more professional. It's Linus Tech Tips. The video is called "What is a Core i3, Core i5, Core i7 as fast as possible?" Go check out that video if you want more information. Otherwise, I don't know, fuck off. Love you. Bye.